Hi guys, Jackie from Famished Farm. Welcome to the final installment of the Year of Minimal Me. Guys, this has been a really meaningful year in so many ways. I've enjoyed these monthly chances to be accountable, and what I've really enjoyed is your feedback, your comments, your support. It's been priceless to me. I'm looking forward to continuing in this journey, although we won't have the recaps anymore. You know, my working history, I'm a finance major. I worked in banking and in credit management. I don't want to do that anymore. So I don't want to be beholden to an accounting of my line item budgets. Not interested in that. I spent a lot of years doing that kind of thing. Not going to do it again. But here's what it's done. Being accountable for the last year has identified the real sticking points of our budget. And so now I know what to do in the future. Let's talk about the budget. This year I set the budget at $65, which was, I think, only 1 month out of the year did I even get close to that. And that was making lots of concessions, which that feels like cheating. So didn't really like that. Groceries for the month of December, I again spent over double what I had budgeted. When I compare that to what we were spending in years past, it would be easy for us to spend $1,000 a month on groceries. This year, if I can cut that by a third, then I'm happy with that. Going forward, what I've decided to do is I'm going to up the budget, the weekly budget, to $100 a week. And then for weeks where we know that we've got friends coming, a holiday, things like that, I'm gonna double the budget for that week. It'll allow us a chance to be creative with our menus and just have more fun. But having said that, this has been a tremendous opportunity for us to identify areas that we've had trouble with. I'm glad that we did this, and I'm glad that now we have a better number in mind for going forward and that we can stick to our retirement budget. December was also the Christmas month, so my business income was fantastic. We did do a little bit of travel because we went to Nashville for our wedding anniversary. Did spend about $700. Half of that went to hotel expense. A big part of that was tickets to a comedy show and a concert and just eating out. We went to a couple of used bookstores, so we bought some books and bought some music, and we just had a really good time. That is something that we don't typically do on our anniversary. The most that we usually do is go out for a steak. I think it's something that we'll plan on doing every year, just a trip for the two of us. December also means Christmas spending. Now, I don't have a lot of people to buy for, and I budget about $500 for the year. We came nowhere close to spending that, so that helped offset some of those groceries that we spent, which was a good thing. That's the budget story for this month. Another big part of the Year of Minimal Me is my weight loss journey. I am so happy to report to you that I have dropped from 219 pounds on January 2nd of 2023 to December 30th of 2024. I weighed 155.4. And got to tell you that for the month of December, I basically maintained, I went up 4/10 of a pound, which I can tell you that has never happened in my entire life. I am a typical, gain 5 or 10 pounds every holiday season. I wouldn't be surprised if it was more because honestly, I never got on a scale. Now, going forward, another thing that brings me no joy is getting on a scale. I hope that I can be very much like my sister and that she starts cutting back when her clothes seem tight. So that's kind of going to be my key to pay attention going forward. I have so much enjoyed having the friendship of my great friend Darlene, who has made me stick with this for 2 years. This journey has been a 2-year weight loss journey. Having looked at pictures from COVID years to see how much weight I have lost. And now during COVID years, I think my high weight was probably 237. I really lost a ton of weight. I'm really proud of myself. Could I have done it without Manjaro? Yes, but I don't know. It wouldn't have been this fast. I would have been more like a every year try to cut another 10 pounds kind of thing. It just has made the journey so much easier. From a health standpoint, my doctor couldn't be more thrilled. From a mental health standpoint, I gotta say, my weight never really impacted my mental health. I'm a pretty even keel type person. I've always felt powerful and in shape. So what the scale said, never paid any attention to it. It didn't affect me one way or the other, except having to go to the doctor and step on a scale. I hated doing that because I never was on a scale. It just wasn't important to me. Weight loss, being down to 155, it's 5 pounds under what I realistically thought in my mind I would weigh. I'm so happy with it. Will I keep going weight wise? We'll see where my doctor thinks I should be, and we'll just see what the next year or so brings. A big part of the year of Minimal Me was our decluttering efforts around the house. We had a basement full of boxes that we have moved from Orlando 7 years ago and then down to Alabama. Those boxes, a lot of them were my husband's family, his mom and dad's belongings that he was now in possession of. The problem is that we just haven't gone through those boxes, and we didn't know for sure that that's all that we would find in those boxes. The goal was to go through all the boxes, and I'm happy to say we've done that. I put a video out about that a couple weeks ago. I'll link that down in the description, and I'll link it at the end of the video if you want to check that out. Am I ever going to be a minimalist? No. And that's one thing that the year of Minimal Me has taught me, is I'm not a minimalist. I'm more of a prepper from that kind of standpoint. I like to be able to go out to my utility room, open a box, and find what I need. I'm more likely to hang on to things that would be useful. And especially when you live 20 minutes from town, you just don't want to jump in your car 10 times a day and go get things. And two, I hope that I'm becoming a much more sustainable type person, that I'm going to use what I have before I go buy something new. That's the goal. And I think we've become more successful at that. And that is certainly a long-term goal. That's one of the things that you'll see in our projects going forward around the house and outside. We're always going to do it on a budget, for one thing. And the other thing is, I'm going to use what I have before I buy something new. That's just the way we are. We both grew up in families like that. A lot of Scotch heritage in my background, and I don't plan on changing that anytime soon. Mental health for December, I would give it a kind of flat kind of rating for that, but I let something that a family member said to me really hit me in the heart. I don't judge that person for doing it, because I know I've been along for his life journey. It's been hard. I would not sacrifice my happiness for his happiness. If it made him feel a little better blowing off steam, then I was the one to take it. It's okay. It really upset me for a couple days? Yes. In the grand scheme of things, who cares? Who cares? Move on. March forward. Don't let the little stuff get you down, because there's a big, beautiful, wonderful day happening tomorrow. For December, so much positive. I'm so happy that you guys have been here for the journey. But let's look at the whole of the year. What did we learn during the year of Minimal Me? The main thing that got me started on this was the decluttering. I've learned I didn't think I'd ever be able to part with. I let them go. I let them find their next happy home. I'm just thankful for the memories those items brought. From a decluttering standpoint, it was fantastic. Now, in the kitchen, that was another big part of our decluttering efforts. Number one, and I say this decluttering, and some people may not see it that way, but the kitchen, your pantry, what's in the refrigerator versus what ends up going bad, going stale, getting thrown out, that is all part of clutter. And being able to see what you have and when it should be used by is all pretty important. And that's from a decluttering standpoint, from a budgeting standpoint. Boy, have I learned a lot during this past year. We started out with 7 or 8 things in the refrigerator or the pantry were not serving me. Those were things, they were taking up space, and I didn't know why I had them, and I kind of resented them. But two, I mentioned I'm very Scotch. I had to use those things up. I wanted to get the utility out of them for the money I spent, or even if it was things that I canned from the garden, still that took time and effort to make those things. I wanted to put them to good use. The big part of that was I had a 4-inch stack of loose leaf recipes that I wanted to go through. And in doing that, I found also a big stack, thick stack of manila folders that had more recipes in it, and a 2-inch binder full of recipes that needed to be gone through. So I have condensed that all down to, I still have the stack of folders, but they're not bulging. They're like a couple dozen recipes at most in those. And what I'm using those folders now are to seasonally change out my items that are on rotation and to keep my like recipes that I call the sweets, the things that I don't make very often. I don't even keep those in my everyday recipe book. I keep those in those folders. So I've got them and I know when I need a favorite lemon bar recipe or a cake recipe, whatever it is, I know where to go to find that recipe because now I can actually find it. When you don't have a bunch of recipes in a stack, it's so much easier. When everything's organized and filed, it makes it so much easier. From that standpoint, the stash, the recipe stash is under control. I have gone through or disposed of. I've either made with you guys every week. I made 3 new recipes from that stash. But during that time, I also culled hundreds of recipes. They were not either, they didn't fit our current taste, or there were ingredients in them that either are not popular anymore or that we're just not going to be able to find in rural Alabama. Regardless, that recipe stash now is manageable, and I've formed it into rotational recipes that will serve me when I'm looking for a quick dinner to put on the table based on what I have in the freezer. So it's all good. The other part of that kitchen declutter, if you will, is I identified, like I said, 7 or 8 things that needed to be addressed. For instance, in my freezer, I had packs of frozen orange juice from a bottle of orange juice that we just weren't going to finish it. And so I would freeze it in 1/2 cup or 1 cup portions. So I would use it. But what I found is I wasn't using it. I would just go buy another jar of orange juice, and the growing stack of frozen orange juice in the freezer was becoming unmanageable. Just by realizing, just by writing that down, I realized when to use it. All of that orange juice is gone. And the other item like that was cranberry pulp. Because I make lots of canned cranberry juice, I had a ton of cranberry pulp. And finding uses for that, I think it was my biggest joy last year. I brew kombucha. One of the things that I absolutely love doing is using the cranberry pulp in the kombucha when I go to ferment it. And I love it. It gives a beautiful color to the kombucha, and it also tastes great. That was just a really neat thing to discover. Now, both the orange juice and the cranberry pulp I also used in dessert recipes, quick bread recipes, and that is all under control at this point. I had 4 items on the list that were also causing anxiety. A bag of chia seeds, a bag of flax seeds, some malt powder, and nutritional yeast. The nutritional yeast, I had a recipe that I had wanted to make a decade ago, 15 years ago. I made that. Nutritional yeast is gone. The flaxseed, I discovered during the summer, it's just not something that I typically use. So in the winter time, when I start making stews and casseroles and soups, I just need to be sure to move it to the front of the refrigerator so it gets used up. Chia seeds. I haven't really found a great use for chia seeds yet because I'm unsure if by heating them and baking them, if it is safe then to use for your gut, because I've heard of issues where if you eat too many chia seeds, it can cause gut issues. So, still working on the chia seeds. And the barley powder, I bought a whole pound of it. It is something that I'm going to use a tablespoon or two at a time. So it's just something that is going to be in the refrigerator, the freezer, and something that I'll just have to remember to use. And it's going to take me the rest of my life to use it up. It's just a fact of life. So I can either live with that or dispose of it, put out a call to any of my neighbors that maybe could use that. If there's any bread bakers out there and you want some barley powder, please let me know and I'll send you some. Now, another thing that I had on my canning shelves that was just giving me pause is I had a ton of pickles and some strawberry jam. That wasn't my favorite item. And the strawberry jam is all gone because, like the solution for the cranberry pulp, we did use it in quick breads and some dessert type items, and we just slowly used it up. I know for the future that's probably not going to be the way that I preserve because I didn't enjoy it. So we'll try a different method of preserving strawberries for the future. The pickles, it was kind of the same kind of thing. I found that we weren't putting pickles in the refrigerator. They were just sitting on the canning shelves, taking up space. Every time we have burgers now, I pull the pickles out. It just as a way to remind myself we have delicious homemade pickles to use and pull them out and use them. That's all it took. It's just a little awareness of problem. I mentioned the cranberry pulp, that I was so excited about that. Another thing that has been just weighing on me is this texturized vegetable protein that I bought as a long-term food source, and I hated the flavor. It was flavored with chicken and beef. Flavor is horrible. Now I've learned how to rehydrate it by soaking it in boiling water and taking that taste away, and that has been one of the greatest things. It's helped us stick with a meatless Monday. We're not perfect, but we have many more meatless Mondays than we've ever had in the past. And thanks to that TVP that I am slowly using up. It'll last again. That probably will last the rest of my lifetime, which is perfectly fine. So going forward, I'll continue to save recipes. I'll continue to print recipes. But what I'm planning on doing is just making them. Don't let them just sit and collect dust. Make them. It's kind of like Oprah always said, pull out your good silverware and your good linens and use them. Gosh, if I find that a recipe looks good enough to save it, then why wouldn't you make it? So that's a goal for the year coming forward. Appreciating those canned items that I have and making use of them. It feels good to do that, and I'm happy to be able to do that in the future. Speaking of canning, we have the bounty of the garden this year is something that I talked about in another video. Here's a quick rundown of what we put up this year. 15 pints of salsa, 12 pints of chow chow, 10 pints of pickles, 4.5 pints of pesto, 10.5 pints of pizza sauce, 7.5 pints of zucchini frozen, shredded zucchini to put in soups and stews, 23.5 pints of marinara sauce, and 56 pints of cranberries. The cranberries, we did not grow those. I did buy those, but I use those every day. And then I did have just a couple of pints of blueberries and strawberries, nothing that I even kept track of. For the whole season, it was not a great fruit growing year, but we did eat fresh strawberries and blueberries frequently throughout the summer. Not only is gardening for me a mental health saver, booster, all those things, it's a source of food. I appreciate having that and will continue to do that for next year in a even bigger garden. We talked about letting go of stuff. Part of the letting go of stuff, I just wanted to mention real quick, the boxes that we went through and have been organized and condensed. All the paper cardboard boxes are gone. Everything is in plastic storage totes on the storage side of the basement. It's all good. those boxes in my world would be completely emptied and things would be gone through. But guess what? I don't control the world. And I certainly don't control my husband, nor do I want to. So those are boxes that Rod, at some future point, he will feel like going through them, and he will, or he won't. It doesn't matter, whatever he decides to do. 2024, I had a trip to the doctor for a fall and a broken heel. We had some funerals to go to, and we had a wedding, a beautiful wedding. My niece Allie and her new husband Jim. We got to camp with my other nephew and his wife and my sister. It was fun. We had fun entertaining my friends and my brother here and just other family members here. It was a really good year. And thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate the time that you've taken to spend with me. We'll see you in 2025.